All right, let's go ahead and talk about web tools. More specifically, we're going to talk about blog writing. So what is a blog? I think we've all pretty much seen or heard that term before, blog. So over to the right, I have a picture, and in essence, this is a journal that someone keeps online. More specifically, the term blog originates from two words, basically a compound word, web and log, and you basically put them together and you come out with B-L-O-G, and we call that blog. So what can we do with these blogs? They can be basically a web-based journal, and these journals are basically what people use to simply share their thoughts with the world. And by sharing your thoughts with the world, you can also build an online community. You see many people writing blogs for newspapers. Also, you may see them writing for different type of periodicals. Also now, colleges and universities, they're now prompting students or basically encouraging students to keep weblogs or blogs up for their e-portfolios. In other words, basically a collection of their work over a period of time. And another key thing to know is that the term blog kind of can translate into blogger. So basically, a blogger is anyone who writes for a newspaper blog. They're basically a blogger. These people now have getting somewhat infamous or famous with their status. I'm sure if you have your own particular blogger that you may like to follow. I know I have a few that I like to follow. So then that also makes you want to think about, well, what are other avenues that I can use a blog? So as you see again over here to the right, this basically is a portal for various students to share their particular ideas or thoughts about a college or classes that they're currently taking. So this actually will lead us into our next slide. Let's talk about blogging in education. Many instructors are now finding ways to try to incorporate this web-based tool that's available for students and for multiple reasons why. So let's just cover some. So number one being, you may have an instructor that uses blogs to have you discuss activities that you did in class. Maybe you have to write about them beforehand or afterwards. You could also have an instructor that has you write a blog about some newly obtained vocabulary words for reviewing them. You may also be prompted to utilize your blog to showcase your best writing pieces on an essay or a research paper that you completed, which goes into completing class written assignments. So as I mentioned earlier, you may have an instructor or even an entire school or some universities, colleges, which are moving more towards this now, is to have students utilize something called the e-portfolio. And what those e-portfolios will do is it a way to enable you to keep track of your growth academically by saving what's called artifacts. And see, those artifacts would be the equivalent to papers that you've written or projects that you've completed. And along the way, these artifacts, they may also be called, write something called a reflection. And so a reflection basically is a web-based journal that you're keeping on a particular assignment. So you could also get an instructor that will have you create your own blog that's based on your opinions. That happens a lot now, that something that you may have studied or a particular topic that you guys discussed in class, they may have you write a whole blog about giving your opinion on that. And finally, well, it's not final, but one of the final ones that we're going to discuss today is there may be something as simple as you write comments or opinions or questions on some type of daily news items or issues of interest that you guys may have, or something that you're, again, doing something related to topics that's pertaining to your class. So these are some of many different ways you may find yourself writing a blog, which leads us into writing your own blog. So here's a screenshot over here to the right. It's basically a typical blog created by a student. Blogging itself is something very easy to do. There's two categories of blogging, and we have what's called hosting a blogging software, and also installed applications. So first up, we're going to talk about hosting. Now, it's basically a hosting service. And in that case, what you're doing is you're going online and you're going to create an account, I'm sorry. And it's much like a Google or Yahoo or something of that nature. There's many of them, such as blog.com, also there's blogger.com, which I believe that's the one I'm going to have you use for your assignment for the practice activity for this module. So you simply create yourself an account and then you simply go on and follow the instructions and you start writing and blogging. Very easy, simple. Now, I highly recommend that you compose your blog inside of a word processing application and then simply copy and paste that. And that way you have the benefit of using spell check and you also are getting that grammar checked as well. So using a blog again it'd be very simple, just like using the discussion forums that we use in class with Moodle. Now, secondly, you can also use what I talked about before, which is the installed applications. You can download an app to your mobile device or your laptop or your computer. It doesn't matter the platform, in this particular software will enable you to launch a program that you will create and format your blogs for you. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of free blogging apps. If you simply just Google free blogging, you will find all these apps that will come up in your search results. Um, Now, for your practice activity again, this module, you're going to be creating your own blog. It's very important that you complete this activity because completing this activity will enable you to actually complete this week's portfolio project. I think you're going to get a lot of this out of this particular section. Again, you're basically going to get out what you put into it. So if you put some time and effort into it, you'll see the benefits of this. So I want you to follow the instructions for this activity. I want you to have some fun doing it. And as always, if anybody has any questions, please send me an email.